This video is about the skills that you'll need as a fiction novelist to write and finish writing your book. This video is not about the elements of storytelling. It's not about theories or frameworks on plot or character or world building. It's about skills, which means that these aren't ideas that you store in your brain. They're things that you literally actually do. So on the one hand, the more you practice doing these things, the better you'll get at them. But on the other hand, the more you neglect these things, the more you sabotage your development as a writer and the progress you can make on your writing project. So let's start with skill number 1, which is explanation giving. This is the essence of storytelling and the supreme skill of the storyteller. The original evolutionary function of storytelling, the reason the human brain is capable of storytelling, is to connect events with an explanation of cause and effect. Every time anything happens in a person's life, their brain will work to understand and answer this question. Why did that happen? Being able to arrive at an answer to this question is essential for survival. Because when you have an answer, or at least a hypothesis, the world takes on a degree of predictability. And in a predictable world, it's easier to arrive at a sense of safety and a sense of comfort. For writers, giving explanations might start when you're developing your characters. For example, backstory is important because one of the biggest reasons any person, real or fictional, is the way that they are is because of what happened to them. Also, the only reason people make the choices that they do is because of who they are and where they are. So the plot, the characters, and the world of a story is a web of interactions that all cause and affect each other. And actually what gave me this realization of the importance of explanation giving for writers was when I noticed that of all the nonfiction topics that writers seem to gravitate to, the two major categories are psychology and history. It's my theory that the reason for this is that psychology and history are both fields where you learn a lot about the mechanics of cause and effect. You get to see a lot of examples of different explanations. People who write character-driven stories might get deep into the psychology of a different personality theory. And people who write plot-driven stories like epic fantasy or military space opera might get really immersed in different world histories. So explanation giving is the essential storytelling skill because storytelling brings meaning to chaos. And a great deal of the draw of a story is the meaning that it offers. Because meaning is so emotionally comforting and psychologically satisfying, it makes me think about how some philosophers have observed that religion and spirituality do the same thing as science. They make meaning out of chaos. They give explanations. So while all writers should develop their skill in explanation giving, the biggest sign that you are lacking this skill urgently is if one of your main problems as a writer is that you never know what should happen next in your story, or you're always struggling with writing the middle events in between your favorite scenes. In these cases, you might need to focus on honing this skill of explanation giving the most. If you're a writer who's not interested in showing or telling the cause and effect between events, and what you like the best is dwelling in a feeling or a moment, then you might enjoy writing poetry more than writing novels. Try that instead and see. The second fundamental skill of novel writing is decision making. And I don't mean making the best decision. I mean making and committing to any decision. I mean decisiveness. After you've amassed a collection of plausible explanations, you have to pick one. This is the only way to keep writing your story, because the alternative is that you get stuck. There's a certain flavor of writer's block that occurs because you don't know what happens next in your story. And that's because you haven't settled on the facts of what happens in the part that you're currently writing. Novel writing is specific. It is not nebulous or general. When you see that there are multiple different ways that a story can go and dwell for a long time on making a decision, you waste a lot of time. This is one of the places a writing project can stall for a long time, even to the point of abandonment. If you can't bear to close off possibilities and you feel that you must keep all your options open, you might be more suited to writing a choose-your-own-adventure story or making like a video game with multiple endings like a visual novel. But even then, a failure to be able to decide for certain on the facts of your story is going to keep you stuck, so cultivate your decisiveness. The third skill you must absolutely have as a novel writer is prose making. This means word selection and sentence construction, because that's all writing really is. What I've just said is very obvious, but it's crazy to me that there are people walking around saying writing is their hobby, but they haven't penned a sentence or a paragraph or even a dot point in months and months or even years. They only think inside of their own brains, firing their neurons and fantasizing about the lives of their characters. Thinking isn't writing. This is why people with a habit for writing, and I mean all kinds of writing, people who journal or people who jot down their thoughts or even people who regularly write content posts in their own social media, and I mean writing, not making videos. These people feel much more comfortable when they're faced with a blank page in comparison to writers who are first and foremost only imaginers. The prospect of writing doesn't trigger negative emotions like confusion or uncertainty or hesitation in these people. When you write prose sentences regularly, you become comfortable with the tools of the craft. If you're not very excited or interested in writing sentences or honing any of the 3 fundamental skills that I've been talking about, you might need a different hobby, because this is what novel writing is. It's fine if you don't like or don't want to spend your time doing these things. I'm just saying that you might be happier doing something else. Maybe reading and appreciating books and other forms of stories is the hobby for you. If you want to know more about what it takes to go from a tasteful reader to a skillful writer, watch this video next.